what you need is either a headspace gauge or a piece of brass that's been fired in the chamber that you know to be good for the chamber size. The first thing you do is you grab the bushing that fits the smallest over the neck. Now this is a 6mm, so this bushing that's used for sizing down to 22 doesn't fit. So the next bushing up, which happens to be a number 6, will be the smallest bushing that fits over the neck of that cartridge. What you do is put that bushing in the die and put the knurled top down to where it's snug against that bushing. Okay, now I've got that brass in the press and I've got the die just started in on the threading. I set the press up so that the ram is all the way up, and what I'll do is I'll feel when I get to that brass, and there we are there, and that's with the top tight on this. So now we're hitting that shoulder, and so that's our headspace. So what we'll do is we'll bring this lock ring down, and I'll back the ram off, and we want to make our brass to be fire formed just a hair smaller than what our fired chamber is, so it fits in well. So with that down, I'll tighten up this screw, and now the die is set up to where it's going to stay the same. As the process goes, we're just going to remove the inserts or the bushings out of the top of the die, and we're going to size brass down in a series of steps in order to get to our desired cartridge. Okay, that cartridge is now set up for the headspace, so we're going to pull that cartridge out of there, and now we've got to get that bushing out. The best way is a nylon brush on a handle. Just reach down in there and grab the bushing. It's the easiest way to get that bushing out of there. Now in order to set up the 308 brass, we start with the largest bushing, which is the lowest number. So because I make a number of die sizes, your die that you get may start with a 1, a 3, or a 4, depending on what size cartridge you're making. This one starts with a 3, so you go with the lowest number. You drop the 3 in, and you screw the top down onto it with the knurled knob. And it only has to be hand tight. Just that tight's all that you need. So you take your 308 brass and use Imperial sizing die wax, and you run it up in there. Okay, now you can see we've moved that shoulder back quite a ways. If I were to measure the headspace, and I have, from this one to the 308, we're going to end up pushing that shoulder about 335 thousandths back. So that's basically what we have here, is about a 335 thousandths move on the largest diameter. From there on out, all you do is replace the bushings down to the size that you need to go to for your Wildcat. If you need to go to 22, you go to the 7 bushing. I even have a number 8 and a 9 to go to 20 or to 17 caliber, but the number 7 will get you down to 22 caliber. The number 6 is what we're going to use here, down to 6mm. But you go in series, so you pull the 3 out, put the 4 in, run your brass through, put the 5 in, run your brass through, put the 6 in and run your brass through, and at that point you're going to have a cartridge like this with a real long neck. Okay, so what I've done is I've run this brass all through, and I've run it through all of these 5 bushings. I even went 1 bushing further to show you could make a Wildcat based on 22 caliber as well. Whereas we wouldn't use that for this cartridge. We'd go 6mm would be far enough. But I'm going to bring this brass up here and show you the progression of steps that you've got. So you start with 308, and you move the shoulder back, and what you keep doing is the shoulder keeps staying back just as far, but each step you're squeezing the neck down smaller. This one would be far enough to be 6mm, and this is your finished cartridge. So what we'd have to do with this one, which you do all your brass with, is now we would go and set up our case turner, our case length cutter, and we'd cut it off to length, and then we would run it through our full length sizing die just to get it really close to what the chamber is. We'd run it through an expander mandrel and neck turn to what we need in our chamber, and then we could fire form that brass. But what we've done now today is taken 308 and basically turned it into something right here that we can use to fire form and get this cartridge out of with 308 brass.